Today on the Topping Show, a DC judge helps two teens avoid jail time for assaulting Ed, aka Big Balls. Tim Walz signs the driver's licenses for all law, allowing illegals to easily obtain an ID. Spotify bans Nick Fuentes after he soared to the number one spot. BMW has a record year for vehicles with V8 engines. And EcoFlow recalls their power stations. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have BMW having their best year ever for vehicles with a V8 engine. That is some good news. There's an age-old philosopher, I don't think it's Confucius per se, but there's an age-old saying in the automotive industry, there's no replacement for displacement. Now, this brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Chris Perkins, who's a writer over there. And they say, quote, BMW has a record high V8 sales last year. As BMW pushes further into electrification, it continues to go from strength to strength with their internal combustion. And here you can see a great, good old BMW with a V8. Though, I hate how they put so much plastic on car engines these days. I know it's partially done for noise dampening, which I would argue you have the wrong vehicle if you need noise dampening on a sports car, but I partially digress. Again, credited to Motor1.com, Chris Perkins, and they say, quote, BMW is looking ahead to the future with the new class EV platform, but the company isn't forgetting its internal combustion past. We recently spoke to BMW's research and development head, Dr. Jacqueline Post, and while our conversation focused largely on new class, which is spelled K-L-A-S-S-E, and what comes next, he did touch on internal combustion. During the conversation, he revealed something interesting. Last year was BMW's best for V8 sales. He says, quote, we want to give the consumer the best car. Hold up, let me stop there. That means not EVs, because again, EVs are very, very expensive and debatably less reliable than a Ford Motor Company vehicle after 10 years, which, again, that's saying something. But in all seriousness, he said, quote, we want to give the consumer the best car, and they can decide what kind of powertrain they want. Not get a new car only if they choose an EV, an old car if they want a combustion engine. The world is different than last year. We had most sales of premium EVs, and at the same time, record highs for 8-cylinder engines. Here you see the 8-cylinder engine outside of the vehicle there. And he says, quote, well, unless you're a BMW enthusiast, I don't think most people realize all these different vehicles. So, again, I'm sure they mean something fancy. I'm only partially kidding. Cadillac does the same thing with the nomenclature, but they say, quote, BMW V8s are especially popular here in the United States, available as an option in the X5, the X6, the X7, the 7 Series, the 8 Series, and standard in the M5, M8, X5M, and X6M. The new M5 also introduced BMW's new plug-in hybrid V8 powertrain. That's been proving successful thus far. Which, again, BMW makes some great exceptional track toys. A few of them even have manual transmission options, which I love. But yeah, a hybrid V8, I would not get that from BMW myself. Now they say, quote, while BMW is best known for straight sixes, true, the company built the V8 powered luxury cars in the early 1950s and 1960s and brought the V8 back predominantly in the early 1990s for the 5, 7, and 8 series. It proved to be a popular option in its large cars, especially SUVs like the X5. BMW's latest V8 twin-turbo 4.4-liter S68 debuted in 2022 and lives in the top-end Land Rover and Range Rover models, or lives atop those models. Combined with the hybrid system, as in the M5, BMW's V8 provides customers with power and character they want, while also satisfying increasingly strict emission regulations. Ugh. They say, quote, where a lot of other automakers plan to go all in on EVs, BMW took a more cautious approach. It made great EVs. I'm sorry, this guy's not joking. Okay, they apparently made great EVs, but it didn't stop investing in the internal combustion engines. It's a bet that clearly is paying off with strong sales for ICE and EV sales, which, yeah, it's one of those things where, it wasn't just them. I mean, famously, Toyota put I believe in terms of comparing to any other automotive company, the most research and development dollars into hybrids when everyone else is going all in on EVs, which is paying off handsomely for Toyota. That is a faster growing segment in the United States for consumer preferences is the hybrids. Again, I kind of joke those people don't know how to do a long-term ROI analysis in terms of, again, right now things could change with battery tech, but the issue with hybrids is after 8 to 10 years, batteries go bad, and then replacing them costs as much as the vehicle. So I'm a big fan of internal combustion engines, also because many of them have the option of a stick shift, also known as a manual transmission, so it's even more fun. But it's great they have some big options from BMW, and again, I can't help but think, especially in the United States, where again we're having more lax regulations, especially compared to last presidential administrations. This is also a political issue because cars are one of the most regulated industries in terms of all the politics involved. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's going to become more and more easier, especially next, I'd say 36 months, to actually have big displacement engines sold in the United States again. And it'll be interesting to see if BMW continues this trend and if other markets catch up. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Spotify banning Nick Fuentes after he soared to #1 in the charts. Now, this brought to us thanks to Remarks, #Remarks at X. They say, quote, Spotify bans Nick Fuentes' podcast after it hits #1 on the charts just days after allowing him onto the platform. And this went extremely viral. Got, 1.5 million views and 35,000 likes, which is quite a few to say at least. And yeah, he's one of the most controversial podcasters, I would say, well, perhaps not of all time, but right up there with Alex Jones in terms of, many people have a positive and visceral reaction against him. And it is interesting and kind of ironic. This will just make him 10 times more popular. Because again, made famous thanks to Barbara Streisand with the phenomenon so interesting. They actually coined it after her, called the Streisand effect. Fun fact, back in the day, she was very irate that a reporter dared to take a picture of her fancy mansion on the beach. And she demanded the reporter delete that photo, get rid of the article. I never want people to know where I live. And because she made such a big deal about it, that is like half the reason people know her name, and they know where she lived, ironically enough, because she made such a stink about it. Now, Nick Fuentes is banned on pretty much every major podcast platform, especially the YouTube. Now, interestingly enough, and again, Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones got instantly banned on YouTube when they tried to get back on a couple weeks ago when YouTube claimed they were going to be pro free speech. I didn't believe them for New York minute. Wasn't surprised they immediately took them off the platform. But it is interesting on YouTube, they are allowing, I use this term very loosely, quote unquote, reaction videos of Nick Fuentes, where they're not really reacting at all. They just put up a clip of Nick Fuentes. They say nothing except they say, hey, here's a clip of Nick. And those channels are monetized. So interestingly enough, YouTube is allowing clips of Nick Fuentes, but not him alone to have his own channel, which is very unusual. They did not allow that in the past. So people are ironically, he is not profiting off the YouTube, but his followers and a lot of people who like Nick Fuentes are posting about him on the YouTube. They're making a pretty penny. And it'll be interesting to see. Again, Rumble, again, there are a couple of platforms where he is on, very similar to Alex Jones. Alex Jones is not on the YouTube. But yeah, he's soared past Joe Rogan in terms of popularity. It's exceptionally, phenomenally impressive. And the more they suppress him, the more popular he's become. And he is getting on major talk shows like PBD Podcast with Patrick Bet-David, who I would argue is mostly known for being a slimy insurance salesman or MLM or a multi-level marketing piece of crap. Again, some people love him because he's pretending to be, Republican for free speech, yada yada. And again, it's cool that he has a very diverse audience, politically and culturally speaking, on the PBT podcast. But it is interesting how a lot of people forget, how did he make his millions of dollars? But another topic for another time, perhaps. It is pretty weak from Spotify, or pathetic, or however you want to say it. Spotify really grew to prominence in terms of popularity because of Joe Rogan, and they stuck with him. And then slowly but surely, I would say their reputation started to be chiseled away as they started to censor or take down some of Joe Rogan's shows, starting to remove them from the catalog and the library. But for a while there, people really respected Spotify. I mean, I myself only downloaded Spotify, or Spotify as I like to hilariously call it, or at least I think it's kind of hilarious to call it that. I only downloaded Spotify because of Joe Rogan. I mean, that's the power of these creators on these platforms. Years ago, I only downloaded Rumble because of Steven Crowder. And that was why that's how I got introduced to the app. And it's a thing where it's really great advertising, gets people interested in the product, and with streaming being so competitive, I would argue being the only streaming service with Nick Fuentes is a very unique value add. That would make them put them on the map, so to say. And in this case, they apparently thought that'd be for worse, because again, there would be a lot of people calling on people to boycott Spotify because they were platforming Nick. A lot of advertisers probably didn't like that. So, kind of doing that analysis. Although, again, I would say if you're pro free speech, he should be allowed on the platform. Everyone should have that opportunity. And Spotify apparently said, well, probably more people than not are going to complain about Nick, so we're going to get rid of him. We're going to take him off platform. Which, again, statistically speaking, he's, again, right there on the chart right there, he was one of the most viral. And his popularity is exponentially growing on a lot of these platforms. Even though, again, he himself might not have an actual page or a profile on these platforms. And again, this got really valuable. Got 1.5 million views, 35,000 likes. The first comment comes to us thanks to, well, not the most liked one, but the most handsome one out of debate. Me, the topic show, I say, quote, I thought Spotify believed in free speech and not censoring creators. I don't agree with Nick, but he deserves free speech like we all do, getting 3 likes. Yep. Freedom Cat is cute cat with a American flag bandana and American flag in the background. And Freedom Cat says, quote, Spotify, bring him back, or y'all about to be on the receiving end of a massive boycott, getting 62 likes. Unfiltered Man says, who's this? Derek Eek, who is, and I usually don't purposely try to mispronounce names to kind of natural. He is the founder, CEO, and founder of Spotify. And Unfiltered Man tagged him saying, quote, he banned him. I wonder if there's a soda bottle with the cap. I forget what we call the section of the cap of the bottle, which actually splits, but it's been split to look like hairs. Getting 2.1 thousand likes, and insinuating that he's Jewish. Francisco Bariki says, quote, doesn't this move from Spotify simply prove his point about who controls media? Getting 555 likes. Jake says, Spotify, and he has a screenshot saying, delete Spotify. Deleting this app will also delete this data, getting 51 likes. US is occupied, very specific profile name, as a picture of a Jewish man with a walkie-talkie, which looks like it's from the 90s. It has a thick walkie-talkie. It's a meme or meme. It says, shut it down. Arbo says, quote, banning bro only makes him more popular. LMFAO, getting 957 likes. Yep. Infinitely more. People will now seek him out. And again, his fans are so loyal. For years, they reached out to him on a platform no one even heard of. And I'm not trying to be talking down to that platform. I don't remember their name. I'm not trying to be a dick to that platform. It was an up-and-coming streaming platform, but it was a very niche platform that had him on for years. Yeah, they're gonna seek him out, and this will just make people even more intrigued because there's the allure of you can't have this. I mean, very similar. You saw this with Barack Obama. And when you go to any gun store, when Barack Obama was first in office, you'd see these bumper stickers and it would say, salesman of the year, and it has a picture of Barack Obama. And that was, well, if you get rid of the pandemic, historically speaking, one of the best sales for guns in decades was when Obama was in office, because, again, as firearms are a political issue, usually Democrats try to usually Democrats try to take guns away and increase firearm regulations. Republicans, when they do something, very rare, usually fight for the Second Amendment. In theory, they sometimes do. It's very, very rare. But because, Obama, obviously Democrat, is office, they thought there was going to be a lot more regulation, a lot more threats that being taken away. The people bought them up left and right. There are gun stores that literally ran out of inventory. It's that good of a time to sell firearms. And I can't but think a lot of parallels, like right here, they're taking it off the shelf, making it harder to get absorbers materials. People are just going to want it that much more. You also have Faceless, and Faceless says, quote, hitting number 1 is exactly why they banned it. Platforms don't care about the edge causes with 100 listeners. They care when edge causes become mainstream and create advertiser risk, getting 2.7 likes. Magic Boy says, quote, told you there are groypers everywhere, even listening to Spotify. There's Nick Fuentes Nick Fuentes standing, or there's a cartoon of Nick Fuentes standing by a bunch of frogs, toads, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Stuff Jamie Fallon says, quote, Spotify, we love free speech. Also Spotify, Bans number 1 podcast. The pattern is so predictable at this point. In 244 likes. Basil O'Reilly says, quote, Nick might have been banned from Spotify, but he's less than 20,000 followers from having 1 million followers. Let's get him over the line on X. And his hashtag is literally Nick J. Fuentes, getting 205 likes. Scroll down more and more. This is from Minuteman. It's a Pokemon meme, but it's a outline of a Jewish person getting 66 likes. Assailants simply has a picture of a juice box getting 481 likes. Chris says, I wonder why. And it's a video compilation of Nick Nick saying the N-word, though with an A, I believe.
Some bitch nigga shit. Real niggas make good times. Good times create bitch niggas. Bitch niggas create bad times. Bad times create real niggas. And that was one of those instances where the bitch niggas were creating the bad times.
So that's a new take on an old ancient quote, where again the original quote is hard times make strong men, strong men make good times make weak men. You also have Lucy saying, quote, or I forget what movie this is or who this is. So the guy says he's based, getting 57 likes. Let's see here. Decoy says the top 4 podcasts being conservative tells you a lot about our country, getting 31 likes. Tristan, chief author, has a picture of a Jewish guy, says the Goyim no, shut it down, getting 612 likes. Nick says there's absolutely no way Amy Poehler is pulling in more than Rogan, getting 63 likes. Jordan Howard says, quote, remember when the leftists were screaming about free speech last week when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled? They're going to be just as mad about this, right? Or are they actually dishonest, unprincipled ghouls, getting 104 likes? B2 says censorship is only going to make him stronger. Thanks Spotify, getting 136 likes. Bobby Smith says Matthew 5:10, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, getting 106 likes. 1984 says even if you disagree with his opinions, free speech must never be oppressed, getting 102 likes. We also have Fire Sign says, quote, let's get him back on silently, no one will notice. Oh my god, he's #1, quick, ban him again. He must have gotten the call. Imagine what Nick could do if you're not debanked and able to use credit card processors and able to travel freely and still not deplatformed, getting 343 likes. Is any contrarians, anyone saying it's good that he's bad? Casey simply says, what a joke, they can't stop him, getting 74 likes. Anonymous says it's that's insane. They don't like seeing him having that much motion, getting 197 likes. Yeah, so there again, he's off the Spotify, and yeah, I doubt Spotify is going to change their mind. Very similar to YouTube, where again they said, "Wait, we're going to bring back free speech. We're going to bring back these former canceled creators who got taken off the platform for political opinions or medical opinions that didn't jive with mainstream media." And again, as soon as Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones went on the platform on the YouTube with their direct channels, they shut it down within like 12 hours. So again, I'm pretty pessimistic. I don't think he'll be back on the platform. I think this will only make it more popular, but let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have a DC judge actually having 2 teens avoid jail time after attacking Ed, aka known as Big Balls. Now, this brought to us thanks to Right Angle News Network. And they say, quote, breaking, DC Judge Kendra Briggs has allowed 2, quote unquote, teens who jumped Edward Big Balls Korstein to avoid jail and sentence them to simple probation, stating her job is to rehabilitate, not punish. And sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer on the screen. You see Ed actually injured on screen, bloodied, pretty rough. And yeah, people are in the comments, I'll beat them to it, making it a racial. The judge is an African-American woman, and the 2 teens are, well, let's bring that up here. I'll actually give you a quick little summary of what happened to them, thanks to Grok. Now, they say, quote, 2 15-year-olds pled guilty to simply assault in Washington, D.C. for their roles on August 3rd, attempting to carjack the former Department of Government Efficiency staffer, Edward Korstein. Wow. With a concussion and broken nose in a Logan Circle parking lot garage, the boy received 12 months probation with house arrest, while the girl was sentenced to 9 months at a youth shelter, as prosecutors cited their ages and lack of priors. 8 other assailants from the group of about 10 remain at large, with the plea deal not requiring identification of co-conspirators. What? I was going to say, have the kids cover their ears if they're listening. What horse shit. So they didn't even get IDs of the other people who assaulted this young man, and they get a cakewalk. This is why the justice system is a joke in the United States. And this is why we need to start prosecuting minors. Yeah, I mean, it's been an issue for decades. I grew up in the Midwest, and even back then, people in Chicago, or as they pejoratively call it, Chirac, because more people would die there than our soldiers in Iraq. These gangs, well, they aren't smart, but they're not. Well, they're not stupid, but they're not smart. There's some of those things where they're smart enough to know that if they're under 18, they won't get prosecuted. So to enter these gangs, they'll have the kids go out and commit murder as a gang initiation, because they know the kid's not going to be put to death sentence, especially in places like Illinois, where you can do anything on the planet, you won't get a death sentence. It's not even an option for judges to give over there because they don't believe in it. So these kids are recruited by gangs, go out and do the worst things possible, and they know there's no ramifications, no real ramifications. This kid basically gets, 12-month probation with house arrest. He's like, what's he going to do, play Call of Duty all day? How is that a punishment? For physically assaulting someone, and a mob or gang of these kids physically assaulted this guy where he's bleeding and broken nose. So the boy gets 12 months probation. They're 15 years old. They have the cognitive ability to make choices. They have the cognitive ability to know you should not physically assault people like this. You shouldn't be carjacking people. They should be punished severely. And then, so he gets 12 months probation at house arrest. And she gets 9 months at youth shelter. So they basically get 2 cakewalks. You know, if this was the other way around, the kids would be in jail for 50 years. Now, again, this went pretty viral. Got 12.1 million views and 21,000 likes. And the judge says her job is to rehabilitate them, not punish. The judge is a moron. The number one purpose of the whole justice system is to punish them. It is supposed to punish people. After they're punished, then you rehabilitate them. Given how terribly they've lived their lives up to age 15, I can't but think there's a small chance they will be rehabilitated. We have to be punished first. Getting house arrest again, most of a kid's life is online these days. I mean, I thought my generation played about a little bit of Call of Duty and online video games a lot, fair amount. Nowadays, they're all on the TikTok, the Twitter, the X, the YouTube. House arrest isn't a punishment. Their friends will. I'm so flabbergasted. I can barely speak, which is saying something. I usually can't speak at all, but maybe not say much. And this is why no one respects the justice system anymore. That guy had his nose broken and concussion, serious injury, and he got house arrest. That's not punishment. And it just tells other people, hey, if you're under 18, do whatever you want because you will face no severe consequences. And again, these same judges will expunge their record once they turn 18. They'll be like, oh yeah, we'll get rid of that. It's ridiculous. It's infuriating. That's why a lot of people don't respect most judges these days. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Elon Musk himself, saying, quote, incredibly unjust, getting 17,000 likes. The conservative alternative says, quote, without punishment, there's nothing to de-incentivize crime. Can't put my tinfoil hat on and think that's why they're doing it. He says her job is to keep violent criminals locked up so they don't harm innocent people. These judges are becoming a national security threat. Yep. Yeah, this quote's been going viral all fiscal quarter. It's from Adam Smith. It says, quote, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. Getting 3.6 thousand likes. Now, I don't believe in this, what she says here, but Amelia Henderson says, quote, no doubt, and she has a meme that says the United States doesn't have a race problem. It has a problem race, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Matt Van Swole says, quote, the judge should be removed from the bench over this, period, end of story, getting 731 likes. X Van Fleet says, quote, prison is the place of rehabilitation. Yeah. I got 276 likes, going up like a stock. Arthur Eagleman says, quote, pathetic, this is why we can't win, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, Briggs is racist against white people, getting 862 likes. Dr. Shari says, why do liberals love criminals? What does this video show? Oh, it's just a quote from Thomas Sowell. It says, quote, how is that censored? It's a weak Elon. It says, quote, one of the mysteries of the ages is why political left has for centuries lavished so much attention on well-being of criminals and pays so little attention to their victims, getting 458 likes. You have David Santa Clara with a SpongeBob meme. He's crying while looking at an iPhone, getting 221 likes. You have the silent majority, and it says, quote, if bartenders can go to jail for over-serving a drunk person who drives, then judges should go to jail for criminals they released who killed someone, getting 6.7 thousand likes. That's a damn good point. Someone has rearranged her name to be the N-word. I did get 2.7 thousand likes though. JTT.M has the Wikipedia page of Kendra Briggs and it says she's appointed by Joe Biden, getting 956 likes. No surprise there. Ryan Vaughn has the comic of the judge, the defendant, and lawyer. And the lawyer goes, "My honor, my client is too dumb to understand shooting someone is bad." The judge goes, "Good point. Put him back in the public." Getting 1.6 thousand likes, which kind of dark humor because yeah, that's a real thing that has happened with many actually in other countries, especially in the UK. When it comes to their mass migration, they say, "Oh yeah, it's they realize you're not supposed to abuse children and women. Their culture is different. Let them out." That's horrifying, but it is happening. You also have Molly Osborne saying, quote, "We must impeach these judges." She has a screenshot of a tweet from Nayab Bukli. It says, quote, "If you don't impeach the corrupt judges, you cannot fix the country. They will form a cartel, a judicial dictatorship, and block all reforms, protecting the systematic corruption that put them in the seats." Getting 1.9 thousand likes. Yep. Let's see. Robert Seffer says, quote, "Socioeconomic factors on their way to commit the wealthiest," or he says, quote, "Socioeconomic factors on their way to make the wealthiest blacks commit more crime than the poorest whites." And you have a chart from the Bureau of Justice. They highlight that, yeah, white people with an household income of less than $10,000, it says homicides per 100,000. White people were at 7.2. African American were 32.6 for, again, under $10,000. And Asian were 3.2. Then with the 85,000 or over, whites were 1.9. African American or black were 15.4. Asians were 0.8. And that got 1.1 thousand likes. We also have Mirthful Moments saying this, and it's a cartoon for 2015, and it's a African American woman saying, "You're a racist," to a white guy and says, "Wait, what?" In 2025, she goes, "You're racist." He says, "F off," getting 1.7 thousand likes. And not seeing any contrarian statements thus far. A lot of people having the fatigue charts. Mirthful Moments also says Elon is right. And he says, quote, "If any judge anywhere can block every presidential order everywhere, we do not have a democracy. We have a tyranny of the judiciary." Again, $1.8 thousand. And yeah, I don't know. Do you think these kids should be prosecuted? Again, historically speaking, there's a lot of things that judges do not assign to children. If they're under 18, they're tried differently. Obviously, they're tried as a minor. Do you think crime by the age group would go down if they remove those protections? Let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have, Tim Walz investing himself in stupidity, signing the driver's license for all, which now allows illegals to get free government issued IDs and vote. Another thing in which we were told this would never happen or doesn't happen, and then it actually does. Sparters thanks to Dustin Grage, and he says, quote, he actually just quotes Tim Walz. He says, quote, "Tim Walz signs the driver's licenses for all law, allowing aliens to obtain free government issued photo IDs. Now, Minnesota, as I purposely mispronounced it pejoratively to that weak and conquered state, Minnesota election officials confirmed that illegal aliens can vote in state elections using their driver's licenses. But I was told this didn't happen, or can't happen." Yep. There's a Tim Walz right there.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
So we give driver's licenses to anyone here. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to, which is a photo ID. So if someone comes in, they register, they have the driver's license, but they have an incorrect social or no social or whatever. So then they become incomplete. But if they walk in to vote with their driver's license, does that make them all of a sudden now okay?
Mr. Linnell.
Madam Chair, so the designation on the roster for someone whose registration had been incomplete, if they present the election judge with that acceptable identification document, that would clear the challenge from the roster and they would be permitted to cast a ballot.
Mr. Anderson.
Well, okay, there's your problem potentially. So thank you.
So just to clarify, someone who is not a citizen but presents a driver's license at that point in the process could be permitted to vote?
Madam Chair, at the time of registration, as well as at the time of submitting a ballot, every voter is signing the attestation affirming their eligibility to vote, including that they meet all eligibility requirements that they are.
Oh, so he says you have to sign saying you promise you're totally here legally. Yeah, they want people to cheat. That's the only logical explanation. And Tampon Kid Tim got 4.3 million views and 111,000 likes. Well, rather not him, but this clip of him. And I can't but think little Somalia, also known as Minnesota, will keep growing. The first comments come to us thanks to, well, that's just a transcript. Justin Garage says, quote, reminder, Minnesota Democrats voted against making driver's licenses with a, quote, not for voting indicator for illegal aliens. Walter Kurtz says, quote, there's a whole lot of these things they claim won't happen recently happening. Just saying, getting 2.9 thousand likes. Yep. Let's see. You also have Matt Dean saying, quote, good job, Representative Henderson. I remember DFL rejected marking these licenses not for voting to allow this. No way to catch anyone. No way to retrieve ballot once cast. This was designed for fraud, but somehow we are supposed to believe people would never do it. It only happens a couple times a decade, getting 154 likes. Yep. It also says, quote, this is why they said so many times when the same question was presented in 2023, but today is the answer is completely different. Shocking, I know, getting 76 likes. Yo Me says, quote, this is exhausting. It says the leftist media cycle. It says, it's the old recycle logo with the arrows in a circle. It says, quote, this isn't happening, goes to it really happens, goes to it actually is a good thing, goes, if you're against it, you're racist, and then goes, it is happening. Yep, that's the age-old circle of leftism, getting 1.4 thousand likes. Mirthful Moments also says, you can't unsee it, and it says, I can't unsee this comparison of Tim Walz and post-transitioner Mr. Garrison getting 521 likes, which, yeah, it's a shocking. I mean, the only thing missing is Tim Walz having glasses. If he had that, I mean, you can't unsee that. I mean, yeah. Conservative in Oregon says, quote, things that make you go, and says, quote, DYK, Minnesota is the only state to have consecutively voted blue in every presidential election since 1976, past 13 elections, and the only state to never have voted for Reagan, getting 887 likes. Yeah, I'm sure that's total coincidence. I mean, I'm sure it can't be a corruption there. Of course not. Going down more and more. Derek Evans says people should go to prison for this, getting 1,000 likes. Jonathan Waters says, quote, I live in Minnesota. We do not show an ID to vote. They ask to not have you show an ID. It's been that way since I moved here in 2004. You can literally show up, point to a name on a long list, and they put a line through it. So my suspicion is that it's far worse than the post implies, getting 1.6 thousand likes. TX Dad has a meme of the guy at the urinals, going to the urinal, and someone walks up to him. The guy's labeled Tim Walz, walks up to the guy to stand right next to him, which again, no man would ever do in the actual bathroom, and says, need a tampon, getting 306 likes, which, yeah, one of Tampon Tim's biggest passion is putting tampons into boys' washrooms. Fascinating thing to be proud of, but that is one of his things. Going down more and more. Not seeing any contrarian comments here. Badass Mafaka says, quote, remove Minnesota from the Electoral College, getting 316 likes. Solaya says, quote, oh, look, the thing that we were told wasn't happening is happening again, getting 281 likes. Lefty Crypto says, quote, why are illegals allowed to get driver's licenses, getting 225 likes? Great question. Oh, so they could drive and not have insurance. I'm only partially kidding, but yeah, a lot of states actually will give anyone an ID, including illegals. They say it's safe, or actually there's no, they don't have real rationalization. They just do what they want in these leftist states. But yeah, I kind of think, there'll be any negative ramifications. Again, I'm sure people who vote for Tim Walz are very happy about this, but let me know your thoughts. I mean, to me, it sounds like, someone actually, Big Cat Logic says insurrection by any other name, getting 21 likes. Yeah, that or being a traitor to your country, but let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day of a power unit recall. Well, because the power station might just burst into flames. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, and they say, quote, EcoFlow technology recalls Delta Max 2000 power stations due to a risk of serious burn injury or fire hazard. Whoops. At least they look kind of cool. Kind of, not really, sort of. Now, they say, quote, the issue is the power stations may overheat and ignite, posing a risk of serious injury or death, affecting 25,030 units. Whoops. Now, they say that, quote, Consumers should immediately stop using the recalled power station and contact EcoFlow technology for instructions on installing a free repair in the form of a firmware update. They say that this recall encapsulates the EcoFlow Delta Max 2000 model EFD 310 power stations. Power stations were sold in all black and silver with a rectangular LCD on the front and 6 electrical outlets on the back. The EcoFlow Max is printed on the right side. And they also note that the nameplate is on the underside of the product. And unfortunately, nope, did not get ahead of this recall. EcoFlow Technology has received 6 reports of the recall power stations catching fire with property damage. Geez Louise. Property damage totaling over $850,000. Now, the crazy part is the price point. I didn't realize that this is expensive too. They're sold at Costco.com, Amazon.com, and EcoFlow.com from July 2022 to May 2025 for around $1,600. And they're manufactured in China. And yeah, it's amazing how many of these portable power banks, and I mean, the whole purpose of this product is to hold energy, which is, kind of volatile. And the fact that it's an EcoFlow Max can burst into flames, got to say, they're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.